when I first started this journey, I'm like, man, this is a lot of evidence collection, and where do I put it, and how do I keep it up to date, and I'm going to need a big team to do it, and all these people that are constantly, interfacing with the ops team and IT teams to collect logs and put them in a drive, and all these things, all the things that are related to maintaining compliance, right? And I'm like, I'm never going to get enough people to do this. How am I going to do this successfully? So you've got to have, in my opinion, some kind of like automation, whether that's, a Drata or a Paramify or whatever you're looking at. And it's got to be a tool that's robust enough to connect into the tools that you use in your organization, right? You need to pull HR stuff. You need to pull logs from your CloudWatch and your AWS stuff. You've got to be able to pull change management stuff. Like, there's just all of the things that you need to collect and have in a central location. Super important. Like, without that, you're gonna have to hire big, expensive teams, right?
Yo, what's up? Another Paramify podcast. Such a great day.
It's a great day. Nice and warm outside.
That's right.
Yep. Joined today by Justin Scott, who's the Senior Director of
Cloud Operations and Security.
I knew that one.
Both of them.
Vasion. Yeah, and a recent victim of FedRAMP.
Very recent.
Which, congrats and condolences.
Still recovering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you came out the other side successful, which is awesome.
We did, yeah.
So congrats.
It's a great journey. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, glad to have you.
We're going to talk about victims today.
We're going to dive into all of it, yeah. But start us out. Give us an overview of Vasion. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Vasion is an intelligent print automation platform. We modernize print infrastructure. Think of like eliminating print servers, stuff like that. We consolidate end user critical print into cloud. And we automate digital intelligent automating print and document workflows.
Love it.
The word of the day is intelligent.
Intelligent.
That's why I'm wearing glasses.
That's why Kenny's wearing glasses. Yeah. He does look more intelligent. If that was possible. He was, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for coming out. Before we jump into all the FedRAMP stuff, tell us about your journey and how you ended up here and how you got into cybersecurity and compliance.
Yeah, it's a really interesting journey. I started off with Vasion as, in IT, moved into cloud operations as we began to build a SaaS platform. Started to get the inquiry from customers about, hey, how do you protect the system that we're about to buy from you? Evangelizing security quite a bit up through engineering or CTO. And finally, after a certain period of time, the CTO is like, hey, I think we need to build a security program. Would you be interested? And I said, no, I don't really want to do that. I'm an IT guy. I'm an infrastructure guy. I don't want to be on the receiving end of the bad security guy rap. But learning a little bit more about DevSecOps and how, you can implement security into pipelines and push it more towards the engineer and what they got to do, how you can get the security kind of push more on their side of the tracks instead of just giving them reports and lists. I was like, I think I could build that here. We were already CI/CD, we were already containerized, modern infrastructure builds with infrastructure as code. So I was like, I think I can do that. So I took it. Fast forward a couple of years and, we already were doing business. One of our first customers actually was using an on-premise version of our solution. So we had this like government access and use already. And we started to realize, hey, like there's this push to move government agencies into cloud services. Like we should be the first print solution to do that. And so we started looking at FedRAMP and what that meant. And I did a cost analysis on it and met with the teams on some of the work that might need to happen. And, do we do this on our own? How do we find a technical program manager that understands this? Like, what's the cost? And, the business said, okay, let's do it.
That's crazy. Yeah. So you got, you mentioned something that just like sticks out to me, right? So you were not a SaaS platform at first. Right.
We were an on-prem
solution.
Yeah, on-premise solution. Install our MSI on your own servers. Your security is yours.
And and you were selling to agencies, obviously.
I mean, everybody, right at the time.
Everybody. Mm-hmm. You had a really excellent solution. So going from on-prem to SaaS, right? That's where security is not a nice to have anymore. It's a must have. I went through, like, a lot of us who have been in the industry for a long time were part of that transition at different companies where, like, for me, it was like Adobe, you're shipping DVDs, and that's a different security problem, right? But now, if it's all in cloud, then security is a must-have, right? So, what changed? You said that you had already sophisticated solutions, right, for like CI/CD, probably just for delivery, consistent delivery.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that were new for you? Once you're going to like cloud security, right?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're sharing the responsibility with AWS. So what do they do? And how do they protect their part of the boundary that you're deploying your application in? Understanding application security, compliance, those are probably the two big ones, right? How are we engineering this? Do we have security bugs in our code? Are we using libraries that have their own vulnerabilities in them and have CVEs that we need to go figure out? Those are some of the big ones, right? And then like the customers asking us, hey, where's your disaster recovery document? And where's your, those kinds of things is like, what are you talking about? Like, we don't have any IT. What's your IT policy? What's your SLO? Service level objectives. What's your incident response plan look like? And it was, we're like tallying these things up and hurrying, going on the internet, like, what's an incident response plan? What do I need here? We did disaster recovery and all that stuff within the cloud itself, and had a resilient regions and high availability built into the platform. But what does a customer mean when they ask those things, right?
Yeah, and so that's why when your CTO was like, "Hey, we're going to set up a security function," you're like, "That's a terrible idea." Because you're like,
I mean, I don't know if it was a terrible idea, but for me, I was like, I don't want to be the guy that does that.
I don't want to be the guy doing that.
Yeah.
Dude, all that stuff.
We need this. Our customers are demanding it. They're asking for our security posture. We don't have one. I'm making it up on the fly, And in the past, we were like, hey, security is kind of your responsibility. You're installing this in your own cloud. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So when you inherit that then and you start jumping into something like FedRAMP, because if I'm not mistaken, you own all of it for Vasion, right? So you guys are doing some commercial frameworks. You've got your FedRAMP stuff, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, we're deployed worldwide. So we've got regions in Singapore, Canada, EMEA, APAC, US. We support both Azure and AWS cloud, deployments for our customers, and now GovCloud, obviously. So we've got 6, 7, 8 regions, disaster recovery regions attached to those. So FedRAMP was a new cloud, but it's different, right? It's in a protected boundary. It's got all these rules about ingress, degress, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a little bit different. It's like a little bit special for your deployment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, the bad kind of special.
And you got to look at, some of the things that you don't realize is, hey, our application can't talk outside of that boundary. So like, do we have services that need to talk back home that we use to provide the service we provide, and how do we fix that if we do?
Yeah. It changes everything. Yeah. 100%. Did you guys have to switch up some of your vendors and stuff to accommodate that, or how?
Luckily, like a bunch of the vendors, we were able to put them in their own containers and containerize them within our boundary and use the services still. There were some things that were like, sorry, marketing team, you can't have statistics anymore that talk back to a home base so that you can see how many clicks we've got.
Oh, really? They went there? They didn't let you do it?
Well, because the tools that we were using at the time
weren't FedRAMP.
They're not FedRAMP approved, right? So it's here's my answer to everybody. Can I put it in the boundary and keep it in the boundary without having to call home, or does it have its own ATO? And is ATO the equivalent of ours? If we can't answer those two questions, you need to pull it out. So we did strip a bunch of stuff. We are also an MSP. We provide an MSP portal for MSPs to sell our service. We couldn't put that in the product, because we couldn't guarantee that people using it would have their own ATOs and stuff like that. So there was a bunch of stuff like that had to happen.
Interesting.
So it's a little bit different experience for your customers in that environment. That's one of the things that they're trying to address with 20X, right? It's like, why do you have to have that? But then there's different missions, right? So if you're selling to like .gov, right? Maybe it's not that important. That's what 20X is all about. But .mil is going to be different, right? They're going to have they have a different mission, right?
Yeah. And we're also on the DoD authorization path right now
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's super.
and not managed by the FedRAMP process. You know, so we,
I know. It's so rough. Tell us about it.
So let's rewind back to the start then. So you end up taking this position where they're like, okay, we're going to build a security function. Not just we're going to build one from the ground up, you get to own it, but also like we're going to start with FedRAMP, which is like one of the most complicated things to do. Like, walk us through that process. How'd you get started on it? How'd you figure out what to do?
well, maybe I can take a step back, a little bit different start. So I did start with ISO 27001. That was my first like, okay, I'm going to take this on. This is where do we start? What's the baseline look like? Well, we need processes, we need policies to dictate our behavior, right? So how do you do that? Well, we're already international. So SOC 2 Type 2 is more of a US based authorization or attestation, probably is the best way to say that. So what are we going to get our most bang for our bucks? So we started with ISO 27001. And we went through that process, and so that was Rev 1 of our security program being built from the ground up. Hired a guy, bought a GRC tool, to help facilitate that. Next was SOC 2 Type 2, and then the FedRAMP question started to kind of emerge. Like, should we do this? It was a couple of years. We'd done some government work. We'd done some FIPS compliance around our client because we already had government agencies, and so they needed to have the right encryption and stuff like that within the client that they deployed in their environment. So we started that a long time ago, back in the early days. So we had a FIPS compliant client that talked to the on-premise instance. So we were a little familiar with the process.
Totally. That's like a big thing for most people.
It is a big thing, yeah. Like, how do you encrypt correctly? And then we had to go get our FIPS validation and all that stuff. We didn't have to do that this time, but so we'd kind of done a little bit of this, and we thought, oh yeah, we got this in the bag, And the more I dug into what it actually would require, when I'm doing that analysis, that's I had to provide that initial cost, cloud costs. Do we need a team? Are we going to use a managed service provider like a StackArmor or one of those kind of are we going to do it on our own and hire a bunch of people? So that was a start, and gave the analysis to CTO. Our sales team was very confident that they could convert, the on-premise customers to the cloud. So we felt like the ROI was there. We were already an Amazon shop. We had a good relationship with Amazon, so we had the resources to help us there. We're like, okay, let's go do that. So that was the beginning.
How long ago was that you guys started?
Over 18 months ago, about 18 months ago. Now we probably would have done it a lot shorter, but there was 2 government shutdowns during those 2 years.
Oh, we know that.
Yep.
What's crazy in like an interesting anecdote when we were just like kind of getting ready for this is you'd already been doing business with like lots of different enterprises, lots of different agencies, like triple digit agencies, right? Which is crazy. They were using your self-hosted, and they're like, but you couldn't get one of those agencies to sponsor you, despite them loving your product and thinking, man, this would be cool if it was a software as a service, right? This would be better. But they're like, no, it's not worth it for us. Tell us about that, right?
I mean, the agencies that we provided, asked for the sponsorship were like, well, first of all, like, what do you mean? What is our responsibility in this? What's our cost in this? Yeah. So that's the first question. And we're dealing with the IT administrator of the agency and that group. Like, they're not the decision makers for a sponsorship, right? We need the CISO's office, right? Or the authorizing authority to give us the sponsorship. And getting those guys to go up the chain was really difficult, right? Like, they're not going to go talk to their general. They can anyways. There's a level of command there.
Oh man.
So just getting to that person that can make that decision is really difficult. If you're a software company and you've sold it to the IT administrator or the team that buys it at the lower level, it's a risk for them, right? And then when you do finally have those conversations, it's hard to get the whole information to the guy that needs to make the decision because they just don't have time. Right. And so we're just working through these people. Finally, we got the right agency to hear us out, and they love our product, and they're like, okay, well, we're expanding the product. It actually makes sense for us. We've got some future plans for you in these more secure environments.
That's so crazy. So here's like, we always talk about this. The agency can love your product and love your service, but like basically they're like, well, we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars and time, right, to go through this authorization process, which is why, FedRAMP had just so few, right? It had so few authorizations in the first place, right? We are just now at 500, right?
Which is crazy.
Well, and if you look at the SaaS high numbers, it's like under 70.
Yeah, there's under 70 of you. Yeah. That, which is cool. So yeah.
It's cool.
It's a great accomplishment. Genuinely, like, congratulations. Very cool.
Appreciate it. It's not the only person responsible, right? Like I led the team, of course, a lot of people, engineering, product.
Takes an army to get that done.
Testing groups, everything. Yeah.
You guys also, you mentioned, I mean, you had good partners in the mix, obviously, and you also had, you considered a whole bunch of different options in pursuing your FedRAMP. So walk us through that. Like, you mentioned kind of briefly, we can do this on our own. We can get a partner. You told us off screen beforehand, you looked at ATO as a service type models. How'd you guys land where you landed? Walk us through what that process looked like.
It was cost and knowledge. Like I did not know what we were doing, right? It's not, ISO and SOC are not the equivalent beasts, right? And as I was digging into this, I'm like, I think we're going to need somebody who's done this before. So then it was like going through the MSPs that provide that service, and like I said, I didn't get to the SMXs and those kind of guys until later when we were like not sure we were actually going to get a sponsor. But we chose Stack Armor pretty quickly because they've been doing this a while. They've seen companies go through the ATO, like 40, 50 companies through the ATO process. They really like, they're a partner. Like they're one of my only vendors. I'm like, I'm never leaving these guys. Like I'm never leaving because they're so knowledgeable. I can go all the way up to their CTO, right? And ask questions and get answers directly from him. And it doesn't matter what the question is that we ask, because when you get into software, especially software in the cloud, and you're trying to understand, well, is this permissible? Is this not permissible? They seem to just really get architecture and cloud operations and the way that modern microservice applications work in the cloud. They get the technology that we're building on top of, and it made it a lot easier to ask questions and get through the ATO process and get guidance from them when we needed it. Plus, they've got the Threat Alert product, which is all automation, which is like, without automation in the FedRAMP engagement, you can't keep up with it all.
It's a lot. Yeah. This is one of the things that we've said for a long time to people when they would start out with their FedRAMP journey is get the right team in place. And depending on your situation, your team's going to look different. For some organizations, the only thing that makes sense is building an internal team. For some organizations, the ATO as a service model is a great route to go. When you've already got a sponsor, probably easier to find somebody that can, help you and you build it. And so that's awesome. And that's a really key part, because we see a lot of companies who have been at this for 18 months that do not have ATO, that are not even close, that have completely failed in the process. And a lot of times, I think what it comes down to is they didn't start out with the right things in place at the very beginning. The right budget allocated, the right partners in place, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I was told really early by somebody not related to my ATO at all that was like, it was one of Stack Armor's customers. And I was just asking about the service, like, hey, what do you think about Stack Armor? Are they good? Blah, blah. And they're like, hey, do you have a technical program manager yet? And I'm like, no. And they're like, don't even start unless you can find one. Right? This is somebody who's been through the process before. And luckily we got a referral and found one pretty early on.
That's great.
And that was a game changer. Someone just internally that knows the process, that can talk the lingo with Stack Armor and help guide us through the whole process. So, yeah.
Love that.
One of the things that's interesting when we were doing a little research on this, prepping for this, is, this is all about like printers and print servers and security there, right? I remember when we were getting audited by like banks, back in the day at like big enterprises, we'd be, most of our time was like doing, cloud security stuff. And then they would have, hey, we're going to go through like printer and printer security. Like, I'm like, oh, are you serious? Like, okay. And so I would go with the auditor and he'd be like, hey, I want you to log into this. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, I can't, damn it. And I'm like, how do I log into this? And I'm like so hard to use. And I don't know, it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and it's like something I just probably don't pay attention to. This is kind of a blind spot, right, for a lot of people, right? So what are some of the risks, right, that people don't think about when it comes to printer security, especially coming with like, CMMC and CUI? What are some of the things people don't think about when it comes to
there's
printing?
infrastructure that's connected to networking. There's operating systems that require patching. Like the big Windows print spooler issue a couple of years ago, the print nightmare that came out, where there was massive bug in Windows print server spooling. You just like massive amounts of like neglect, like you said, like it's the last thing that really an IT team wants to manage, even though it's like got heavy visibility because people print all the time, right? Managing print drivers, all that stuff, the printer itself, most printers communicate over port 9100, so it's like an insecure port. So if someone's on the network and has broken into your network, they can sift that traffic. They know that's printer traffic, maybe grab jobs off the printer, if you're hacked,
Yeah.
Those are the big ones, and that's what we eliminate, right? Like, don't worry about that stuff anymore. You still have your on-premise printer, but we have a client, we call it the CPA, on the printer itself, and it communicates to a service client that we build that communicates to our cloud. So you don't have to worry about infrastructure, patching, people, like driver management. We reduce help desk tickets because the users can just go pick the printer they want to install and do it, and it's already got the rules based around it. They see the printers that they're supposed to see. They don't see the ones they don't. They get the drivers that they're supposed to have, black and white, collation, all those kind of configurations that the administrator wants them to have. We can connect it to multi-factor authentication, so we support like all the IDPs like Okta, Google, Ping Fed, OctaFed for your authorization. We support PivCat cards in the government for authorization of those print and release jobs. We've got a mobile app. Like, there's a lot going on that we're doing behind the scenes that would have to be managed by an internal team.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Like when we think about like in the Paramify sense, we say, hey, what are you doing for that risk solution? You would just put that right in there.
Yeah.
Vasion right in there.
Yeah, because the way
Right up.
the way that Paramify works, I don't know, we haven't dove into Paramify product, but our whole thing is based around security capabilities, so that somebody like you who's managing 10 different frameworks is not doing it 10 separate times. It's just, I talk about printer security and it goes everywhere it belongs in all the frameworks.
You just rattle out 16 solution capabilities.
Yeah.
Just like boom, like that, right? Just rattle them off, right? But people, that's like that kind of expertise is what people want when they sign up for a service like Vasion.
That's right.
They're like, dude, I do not want to have to deal with this because like, it's just so hard in security. It covers everything from printer security to code security to, physical security, like all of that stuff. And so people are looking for out of the box solutions to handle things and get things done right. So I'm super bullish on the company, right? Because just knowing how printer security is actually super important.
And we're really easy to deploy too. Like, we can get you an instance created, do a migration in half a day, and you could be like printing pretty quickly. And you can take your whole global fleet, consolidate it into one management platform instead of servers all over the place that also have those same issues you've got to deal with. Space in the data center, cooling, electricity, racks, upgrades to the equipment, all that stuff gone.
Very cool.
You mentioned also I saw you guys have ISO 42001, I think. You just got that, right? So
sometime we'll go over to that round.
Yeah.
So you're not a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Awesome team.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So with the SaaS solution, you have people can take advantage of, services like, you have connected to Bedrock, right? With AWS, right? So that you can use any model, right? That your customers want to use. How are you guys deploying AI right now for your services, and why do customers like it, right?
Yeah, so we're still on. I don't know that we have a production ready AI agent yet. That's the plan, right? We're looking at how the world is going. Our app's still going to be a thing in the future. You know, or are we going to be dealing with agents to handle everything in the back end? So we're having those conversations.
Probably yes and yes.
Yes and yes, right?
Probably yes and yes.
You know, I mean, we even going to need a computer in the future, right? Or are you going to have glasses and a headphone in, and you're going to talk, and it's going to do the thing you needed to do? You know, who knows, right?
Whisper Flow.
I use
My
Whisperflow
glasses.
daily, by the way.
My glasses.
I would love Whisperflow on my glasses. But so, yeah, I mean, we are starting to, we do have a little bit of integration with that. We're building a complete framework based on Bedrock and strands and stuff like that. That's, you know, late. I don't want to talk too much about that, but stuff like that's happening. We got the 4201 because we do have a small interface inside of our platform that will let a administrator ask about configurations, make configuration changes just through, you know, natural language. And that's either coming or here to a degree. So yeah, we use Bedrock. We're making sure we're doing it safely and securely, but we are the 4200 has like provider and producer type designations. We're just a provider right now, but we are in the producer piece of it. So we'll upgrade our 4201 to a provider next year when we've built, you know, efficient AI tools that'll be implemented into the solution as a whole for everybody. So we started off as a provider of services just because we have some LLMs in the background. You can ask some questions and do some things in our platform.
Yeah. You know, what strikes me about just talking to you, you can tell that you know your stuff forwards and backwards. And you were thinking a lot about security architecture at the very beginning because you come from an engineering background, right? An IT background. In the speed with which it sounds like you got things done is pretty awesome. How important is it to like simplify your environment? Talk about like that process of making things as simple as possible.
When it comes to building a security program?
Building a security program, yeah. How is that super difficult to get there?
Well,
or like what?
I think I came into it at a good time when some mature GRC tools were starting to materialize. When I first started this journey, I'm like, man, this is a lot of evidence collection, and where do I put it, and how do I keep it up to date, and I'm going to need a big team to do it, and all these people that are constantly, you know, interfacing with the ops team and IT teams to collect logs and put them in a drive, and all these things, all the things that are related to maintaining compliance, right? And I'm like, I'm never going to get enough people to do this. How am I going to do this successfully? So you've got to have, in my opinion, some kind of like automation, whether that's, you know, a Drata or a Paramify or whatever you're looking at. And it's got to be a tool that's robust enough to connect into the tools that you use in your organization, right? You need to pull HR stuff. You need to pull logs from your CloudWatch and your AWS stuff. You've got to be able to pull change management stuff. Like there's just all of the things that you need to collect and have in a central location. Super important. Like without that, you're gonna have to hire big, expensive teams, right? So I would say like it's like you shouldn't even go on the journey unless you're gonna like find an automation platform that can get you there with minimal resources. Because you don't really need a lot of resources if you've got the automation. You know, you need some people, some humans to review it and make sure that it's right and you're gathering the right information. But partners like are really important in compliance these days for sure.
Yeah.
I would hate to have done it 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
Kenny can attest. Yeah, that shift to automation is happening. That's the whole purpose of 20X, right? Is the more we can automate, the whole burden of the FedRAMP is shifting away from like the manual stuff, the documentation, I know how to navigate the dark arts of FedRAMP kind of thing, to automation, engineering, like building those kind of things, which in the end ends up being better. We had posted a video the other day where Isaac was talking about how, what were the numbers? The average time to exploit a vulnerability
used to be over a year for an
like 2.5 years.
Yeah, it used to be a long time, right?
Like 1.5
now
days.
It's 1.6 days, right? Average time to exploit.
So the whole idea of like a non-automated system where we submit something every month showing what we're doing, like we're already 28.5 days behind.
Yeah, we're gonna fix this critical vulnerability and be within the SLA in 30 days, but the real risk is was a long time ago. right?
So
over
I
this
love the
thing.
stress on automation because it really is the way that we keep up. Like the defense has to keep up with the offense, right? So literally keep up with like the changing threat landscape out there.
100%. Well, and you got agents now that are attacking organizations. You know, teenage kids sitting in the basement talking to AI about how do I build a hacking agent that does X, Y, Z, and then go pointing at a web URL and just see what it can do. Like that McKinsey hack that recently occurred a couple days ago with just a simple prompt: "Go hack this." Like that's what we face today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't keep up with it without automating all your end-to-end security posture.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
and it has to be active and it has to be, yeah, it's wild. I love this time though. It's the most interesting time to be building a tech
I was
company.
born for this time. I swear, I'm a little older. Like you telling people, like I wished I was 30 and this stuff was coming out because I want to do it for so much longer than
I love
I'm going to
that.
be able to do it. I was born for this time. I love it.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
Cool.
You guys, so you're doing Rev 5 FedRAMP, obviously. You're somewhat familiar with 20X. What's your take on the shifts?
I mean, I think it's a good thing, right? We'll see what they do with like FedRAMP High because I won't ever be moderate or low.
It's coming. It'll be good.
And I hope so. I hope so. But I think for those people who are considering doing it, it's gonna entry is gonna be a little easier, you know. And then here's the
In some ways.
in some ways, right?
In some ways, yeah.
But like you don't have to go get a sponsor. That's hard, right? That's big, right?
It's out of your control
Well,
too.
and change management also is really difficult and expensive, you know, because you got to do SCRs, you got to go to your AO, you got to get approval on the I mean, they could change your whole platform if they say, no, I don't want that thing in the product, right? It affects your marketing team and your product team's release cycles. You know, they got to decide when they can release based on your audits. You know, SCRs aren't cheap depending on how big the change is. So some of that stuff that you can keep internal without having audits and getting approval from the authorizing authority, like that makes things quicker and easier to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Having prepped for FedRAMP High, like, so we implemented all of the things for FedRAMP High because that was our goal. We got our FedRAMP High we're looking at agency sponsors, and then we found out, hey, we're gonna blow this up, right? We're gonna change all of it, right? So that you were 18 months ago, we were like later than that, right? So when we were doing that, end of 2020, yeah, so it was like 2025, right? 2024 when we were like looking at this stuff, right? So it's in that way, right? Yes, the sponsor thing, that's definitely easier. The SCR thing is a much more sensible approach. However, what you actually have to implement and automate, that's a level way higher than what we were expecting. You know?
Yeah, a lot of people, Phoenix especially, they kind of have a misconception that it's like lower security, and there's gives and takes, right? In some ways, it's tougher.
No way, it's way harder.
Yeah.
Way harder.
I think you just like hit on something. Like it's maybe not as transparent and clear what exactly they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's still all new for agencies. It's new for companies. It's tough. Like when you guys were starting out with FedRAMP, you had to decide like, okay, should we hire a team? Should we build this on our own? Should we go host somebody else's thing? Now they have to start with the whole decision of like, should I do Rev 5? Should I do 20X? Should I do this?
Well, Rev 5 is going to go away, right?
Rev 5 is
It's
gone
now.
If they don't already have a sponsor, there's no reason to.
Sponsorship has just fallen off a cliff.
Well, then the other part is like, what's the DoD going to do to align? Because if you want to sell to the DoD, you got to go through the provisional office over there. And
I'm super optimistic that just what I've seen from 20X, we already have agencies using Paramify, right? With our 20X validation. So there was the whole question, well, are agencies going to accept that? And the answer is yes.
They already are.
They already are.
Yep. Great.
In spades, lots of them. Big agencies. And they like it because it's transparent and it's really easy to see, how you made certain decisions, why you're comfortable with this, why, being really transparent about like, here are the issues, here are the things that I'm working on. And you can get daily updates on that. That is like the future for sure. And so I think it's going to work. And I do think that it's just going to be so good, it's going to be hard to ignore. I know there's a lot of trepidation and a lot of fear around I don't want, this is what I'm always used to. We've always done it this way. But that's like a horrible reason, right, to keep doing it.
I think it goes back to your call on getting good tools. Like, what we try to tell people is like, just don't put your future on any of them. Like, just build the right security capabilities, and then just get yourself a tool where if an agency says, I want Rev 5, great, push that button and give it to them. They want 20X, great, it's here. You want a DoD IL4 and they have their own way they want to see it, great, push that and it's there. But let's get it in a way, and that's what we specialize in at Brandify, but there are other people that do it as well, but let's get it in a spot where you're not fully committed to one thing, because right now it's really hard to know, especially with DoD and FedRAMP, what's going to happen, and we're bullish on it. But who knows, right? Maybe the DoD digs in for longer, or it takes them a couple of years, who knows?
And I doubt if you're doing FedRAMP or DoD authorizations that you're not doing ISOs and SOC too. And there's some value to those programs in your journey to get to the FedRAMP. You don't want to cross on those either, right? Like you're upscaling your security altogether with FedRAMP stuff, but like you want something that can see all that across all of those disciplines, in my opinion. Like, and you want it in one place if it's possible.
Yeah. One thing I think is cool for you guys too. I don't know if you've already seen this. Obviously, your FedRAMP just came through, but you guys are investing a lot into your security program. Like IL6 is no joke. FedRAMP High is no joke. Like one does not lightly embark on these things.
Because you have to do the NSS controls also.
Yeah,
which is more of a documentation exercise.
It's tough. Like it's a tough thing. But we hear from clients all the time that when you have that, it also can become a growth lever as well, because now you're the only option that was willing to invest in all that. Are you guys seeing some of that already?
Well, I mean, yeah, because we do have DoD side agencies that are like, okay, wait, what do you got?
Huge tailwind for you guys,
right? So we have major units of the federal government and our military that want our product or want to use our product in the cloud. Once it can get there, right? They're excited for our journey through the cloud, authorization process, and so
I love it. I think it's awesome. So what would your advice be then for somebody who's listening to the podcast and about to be hurt by FedRAMP, just starting out? Like what words of wisdom would you give them?
I would really make sure you find a really good partner that's been through it, not just once or twice, but really knows their stuff. You want 3 PAOs that understand the auditing process. I would definitely have even if you're trying to keep the budget low, get a technical program manager that really understands how to plan this thing out. And those are probably the big ones.
Yeah.
And make sure that honestly, just because you build it doesn't mean the agencies will come either. So you got to validate that you've got the business ROI, that the customers out there waiting for that. If you got customers asking you to go do this, maybe it's worth it. If it's got one customer asking you, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it's worth doing, but make sure you got the business. Make sure you've got a good partner that's been through it. Hire, even a small team that knows what they're doing, and get ready.
It's totally.
I love it.
So cool. Justin, thanks so much for coming on. Where are you on LinkedIn? Where are you the busiest?
Where can the people find you?
Just LinkedIn. JUSSCOTT is the handle out there.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for coming out. Great to chat.
Appreciate it, man.
Good meeting you guys.
Ciao.